This is a reading of a transcript of a lecture given by Ernest Holmes in September 1918 in Los Angeles, California. The title of this lecture is Attracting the Great Big Things. The transcript of this lecture is available as Chapter 5 from the book Love and Law, the Unpublished Teachings. This lecture is the last chapter of Part 1 of the book, Fundamentals of Metaphysics. Part 2 of this book covers the law of mind and the law of attraction. We will be reading chapters from Part 2 of this book. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel to help us grow our channel. In this chapter, Attracting the Great Big Things, Ernest Holmes sums up the fundamentals of metaphysics and gives the audience a great overview of his knowledge in metaphysics and how to use the mind to manifest anything we want in our life. Attracting the Great Big Things. In metaphysics, as in everything else, if we want to accomplish results, we have got to do something with our principle. It is not enough to say all is spirit and all is mind. That won't heal you. It is not enough to say God is good. That will never do it. God is good. That might be a part of it. Everything in the universe is good. But if we are actually trying to change our conditions and heal our bodies, we have to take the principle of life and scientifically apply it. It is not enough for you and me to sit down and say electricity is, and electricity is wonderful, and it is illuminating. Unless we take the principle of electricity and apply it for a definite purpose, it will not illuminate anything. The reason more people do not succeed in metaphysics in the way of demonstrating is that they do not realize that mind has to be applied. They think they can sit down and say God is good and God is all, and that will do it. No, it won't do it. And the people who do not do more than that do not get results. The people who get results realize the mental principle, realize they get results in the universe through mental law, and that they govern in their own life through mental law. And they begin to use that mental law of causation, creative power, and allow it to flow through them. They begin definitely to use it as a great law of attraction, setting up within their own consciousness a center for a definite purpose, and realizing that toward that center there will gravitate the thing they desire, realizing there is a power behind it which is intelligent, which makes it operate, which relieves them of personal responsibility, so that all the individual has to do is to know within. And that person who can know the most definitely and the most clearly, and at the same time with the greatest sense of ease and peace, devoid of all fear, being absolutely sure, that is the person who will make the best demonstration. There are but a few points you must always remember. Since all is mind, and the only activity of mind is thought, and the only thing you get out of mind is what you first think into it. What you think is of the greatest importance. How you think it, the bigness with which you think it. If you could only conceive a very small thing, that is all you would physically get. Here, we realize that we are not dealing with anything that is physical. There is no physical explanation for anything on earth or anything else, and there never will be. All manifestation is backed up by a definite idea. Every idea is a thought in your life and mine. And everything that happens to us is backed up by some mental attitude. We have on the one hand all mind, or the substance which forms itself around our thought. On the other hand, we have the thought around which it forms. And here is something you must never forget. that life can only operate for us by flowing through us, never in any other way. You will never demonstrate until behind your mental attitude is the belief that you have received before you have physically received that thing which is sought. And if you will study the life of any successful business people, they are doing the same thing unconsciously. All we are doing is learning to take the same thing and systematically apply it for definite purposes, and it operates. And the reason why so few people succeed, and yet I'm surprised at the large number who do succeed and get some result, but the reason why more people do not is that in the first place, they are not able to separate things and effects and realize they have nothing to do with them. As an effect, as a thing, as an objectified object, neither your body nor conditions act. They are both acted upon. They of themselves cannot act. They are devoid of intelligence and are always acted upon by your mentality. So, it is not easy. It is just as hard for me as for anybody, probably easier if one has more practice. It is not easy to get rid of the objective thing. It is not at all easy to get rid of it, but you have to get rid of it. About 2 weeks ago, I received a letter. A man asked me to treat him. I never heard of him, and I don't know how he heard of me. I was very busy, and I asked my mother to treat him, for I knew she could treat him just as well as I could. After she had given the treatment, she said, "That person was healed. Whoever he was, I got such a clear consciousness of life. I know he must have been healed." Today, I got another letter. He thought I had healed him. I got another letter from the same town from another person, saying it was an instantaneous healing, and this one wanted somebody else there to be treated. And the thing of it was this, that you often can do better if you do not see the thing you are working for. You get a clearer consciousness, and since all is mind, and since mind is omnipresent and all-knowing, then we make the perfect realization in mind. When we make the perfect realization in mind, never forget that. What you have to do is to make the perfect realization in mind. Not in the mind of the patient, not in your mind, but in mind. A note here, Ernest Holmes was talking about the universal mind, and he spelled it with a capital M. The only mind there is. And so far as you are concerned, that mind flows through you, and therefore you get the realization in your consciousness, and since mind is one, it is made in mind. And upon your ability to know perfect life, that is what gives you your ability to heal. I do get disgusted when people use this thing and think of it simply as a sentiment. It is more. It is a scientific fact. Mind is. But we have got to contact it in the order that it works. We have got to use it ourselves. The law of cause and effect. We have got to use it just the way it is. We cannot change it, but we can use it. It is an eternal force. I do not know any more about it than you do, and nobody else on earth knows. When we use it in a certain way, we get results. So you can know perfect law, know that your word destroys everything that is imperfect, breaks down every man-made law and belief, every material law, and know that your word is the law unto this case. This is for demonstration. Suppose you sit down in front of a patient who had tuberculosis. Now that patient is dying because something is operating upon his body. We know that since all causation is mind, whatever is operating on that individual's body is some activity of mind or thought. We call it race consciousness. The whole race consciousness is that tuberculosis kills people, but it is all mental. That chair has not got tuberculosis, and that body has no more mind than the chair. It is made out of the same kind of stuff. It is acted upon by some thought, which probably did not start spontaneously in his own consciousness. That individual probably had not wanted to become sick, but he had become receptive to the race consciousness and had taken in a lot of negative thought. The whole race consciousness is that tuberculosis kills people, but it is all mental. That chair has not got tuberculosis. If you sit down beside this patient and say, "This poor fellow has tuberculosis and that is pretty bad, and I'm going to see what I can do for him. Maybe I can do as well as anybody else, but it looks to me like kind of a hopeless thing. But I will do the best I can for him." You will never be able to heal him. So long as you are treating the man's body as a physical body, you cannot heal him metaphysically. That is one of the greatest errors in metaphysics. That man's body is nothing but an effect. It is an outpicturing of his mind and is just as fluent and plastic as water when you pour it from one pitcher to another. Forget the body altogether. You can work only in mind because that is causation. Here is another mistake. Here is a psychological mistake or a mistake of psychology. I cannot plaster my thought into his. That will mean you had a mind and he had a mind. That is not the truth because there is nothing but mind and you are both in it. And in this race consciousness there is thought operating against this mind, and that is where we have got to destroy it. Do you understand? Then what are you going to do? First, you must realize that you are a mental being or spiritual. You are perfect, and your word is perfect. It is absolute. This is not taking anything away from God. God is still God, and God is still all. But you are recognizing that God has given you power also as God has. You have got to know absolutely that your word is the law unto this case. It is. If it was not, you could not heal anything. Now then, quite definitely, I will state to begin with, and often I have to do it now. I declare often, my word is the law unto this case, absolutely. And it is not enough just to declare that word with a sort of empty meaning. That must be backed up by the consciousness that recognizes what you mean. You must feel that beyond your word there is an infinite power, an intelligence that is causation. It is right out into it. That is making your unity with the infinite. Then you know your word destroys every man-made law that anybody has made about this person that says the man is poor and sick and miserable and has to die of tuberculosis. Your word must have that power itself of casting out. Let nature alone. It is perfect always. Then your word has destroyed that false thought and establishes the divine law of harmony. You must declare this man to be perfect, and you realize perfect life for him. And there is something, I do not know what it is, that does it. It is senseless for anybody to get up and tell about what God is. I think when people begin to talk like that, it is a sign of weakness. We just know there is something that does it, and it will do it and correspond absolutely to your mentality when we do it. We know that something behind it must be infinite, and we seemingly are finite. I suppose in reality, whatever our life is some part of the great life. It must be, since we are in it. But this is quite sure, that the individual who gets the biggest concept of what we call life is the one who gets the biggest flow into his or her word and has the biggest power. We are too little, too personal, too full of those nasty little things we think of ourselves and others. We have got to accept things in a big, big way. My idea of health is that health is. It is complete. It is being. I do not think of health as having any degrees as good, better, best. You cannot compare that which is perfect, and anything that denies it is imperfect. And so, we should take as our standpoint the highest possible thought we can have. Somebody has well said, God is our highest conception. Always has been since time immemorial. And our concept of life has enlarged. Our concept of God has enlarged more and more until now we reach out and say it is universal and omnipotent. And since that is the highest concept we have come to know, it is the best we can have. It is the best we have. Sometime we may have a better one. As long as you and I are too personal, suppose I sit down in front of that person and say, I have got to heal him. It's a big job. I could not do a thing. My consciousness has got to realize that mine is universal, that it knows everything, that it is all powerful at all times. The time will come when one's consciousness will be so strong they will heal as they pass along. That one can heal 1,000 people at once. There is such a state of consciousness. About half the time when I give a treatment, I spend 2 or 3 minutes giving a treatment. Just as soon as you get the bigness of thought and you know it, it is a treatment, and you could not do anything else. You cannot make anything happen. People have tried to make things happen, but you have got to let them alone. It is just the same thing in handling your conditions. I like this Monday night class better than any other class I have. I feel we will accomplish more. I heard of 5 or 6 more people this week who have obtained results. Now, remember this. Your ability to demonstrate in your affairs will be dependent absolutely upon what is in your mind now. That is cause and effect. If you are an individual who has a big concept, if you have been handling big things, you are able to attract big things to you. Such people have the ability to put their minds to big commercial projects. It is because like attracts like, and for no other reason. There is a great mental law, and it is given to us to use it, and we are foolish if we don't. Remember, if you want to get a big thing, you have got to expand your consciousness so you will be able to receive a big thing if it were to come to you. Then any activity in our affairs, and in all those things, we must first enlarge our consciousness by reaching out in mind more and more and more, realizing that we are dealing with the only power there is, and then trying to feel we are connected with it, and it knows and understands and receives and returns. There is always a reciprocal action between mind and that which is universal and that which is individual. And when it is flowing through you, you must realize you are dealing with a law which cannot not demonstrate. You are not taking any chance. You are not asking any questions. You are not making any supplications. No, you are not. You are not making a prayer from the ordinary standpoint of prayer. You are using a power which is, and you have a right to use it, and you will reach right up to your ability to use it. It is limited by our mental concept, absolutely. While it is the power that makes the planet and everything on it, it makes you and it makes me. When it comes to working in our life individually, over our conditions and over our bodies, it can only flow in through our consciousness, no other way. And what we want to do is to provide that great big consciousness within. Make our unity with big projects and with big things, big enterprises. You can never jump away from yourself because, don't you know, when you jump, you take yourself right with you, and when you land, there you are. People try to jump away from themselves. People think, if I had a definite condition, if I had a definite place. You have got to provide this thing right where you are. If you are in hell, and when hell has cooled off, you are ready to go somewhere else. You have got to save yourself, and if the world had realized that years and years ago, the world would not need any more salvation today. Who is coming to save you? God has already done it. God has done everything there is to be done. We can think of nothing better than this earth is. It is beautiful, it is lovely, it is bountiful, yet we are in the midst of plenty, starving to death, in the midst of harmony, yet miserable and suffering. We have all the fullness of creation, and yet we live like animals. And in a childish, weak way, we blame everything on God, and then think we are suffering for righteousness' sake. This is a mistake, for it is not right to suffer. It is all wrong. Else we will have a suffering God, which will be a monstrosity. So then, we must conclude we are suffering because we are wrong, and when we harmonize with law, law is ready right off to be used. So then, we have got to get rid of that false concept before we can demonstrate. We have got to get rid of it. We have got to realize our unity with real life, with real things, and no longer with little personal things. I think I get the best results when I do it this way. Viewing my affairs from an absolutely impersonal standpoint. Instead of saying, I have to do this, or saying this is my work, and I have this to do, and I have just this much strength to put into it. We should kind of get away from our work, and let this thing be operated upon. And here we stand. The silent force of mind flows through us, and it does it in an impersonal way. Then money comes to us, and houses and lands. If your consciousness is right, you cannot keep them away from you. They will come and unconsciously dump right down on top of you. Jesus told the people that years ago. He said, houses and lands will be added unto you. It is an absolute fact that they will be. The ordinary person grabs at them and steps on them so that nobody will take them away. That is not the universal principle. The universal principle is flowing in and out constantly. I have come to have money, houses and lands and automobiles, and they are in mind, every one of them to use. But I will not own anything in my possession that I will not willingly take out and drop and not care if I ever heard of again. I mean in the objective. It has a real scientific fact behind it, and that is the principle of circulation. Do you know, if you tie a cord around your leg so you stop circulation, that your leg will die in a few hours? Everything in nature provides for a complete circuit in itself. If things are congested, they must stop. You will find in practice what will happen is this. If instead of ever so grasping, while I believe that we should always be getting, always accumulating more and more and more to the very last day we live, not to hang on to it, because every consciousness should be constantly expanding. We are living in consciousness and not in conditions. So this is the way we should look at it. There is just life, and we are in it. Suppose in your practice you are seeking to demonstrate. You realize first this power flows by, and all you have to do is to reach out and take it. You give direction to the law, and the law returns the thing to you, and think that is mine to use it as long as I want it. I'm master of that law. I say the point is this: there is the power, and the power is itself impersonal. And so long as we remain simply in our personality, we are not letting in that impersonal force to flow through us. So in our conditions, we should not struggle. The big things are done. If you want to attract to you great big things, if you are a little afraid, they won't come. Get rid of that. Get all the quieter in your consciousness. You will still go out about in the objective world, attending to things just as usual. But behind it all, there is a power you know it's alright. It is alright, and you will see the thing, and you will see it done. It is wonderful the way that thing will work if you can learn to let it alone and let it. Most of us get it started and not realizing that all is mind, or just partly realizing it. You know, thought is the most subtle thing, and we disturb a demonstration with a little fear about it. We are setting some obstruction in the way, and since all is mind, and you think a little obstruction, that is the obstruction. So you must know the whole thing is done from the beginning to the end. So all the time we must be expanding our consciousness, and you have got to take time to do that. I do not know of any shortcut to do it. I do not know of any shortcut to consciousness. Consciousness has got to be developed by persistence, by endeavor, by maintaining an even temperament with yourself. You have got to be on good terms with yourself most of the time. That is not easy. There are not many people who are that way. You have got to have a great perseverance with yourself. You have got to set yourself on the path again, and so get along with yourself better, and let yourself have a chance. Never condemn yourself. Forgive yourself if you have ever done wrong. That is right. We have the power to forgive ourselves. So set yourself right, and then you will find you are sailing along smoothly, and you are almost there, and flop, down you go. And again, you have got to do it. It does not matter how much patience it takes. It is the only thing that will win now: perseverance and patience with yourself, until you can see that each succeeding month your consciousness is learning. The thing will follow in its turn. Instead of saying to my patience, "How are you getting along?" I say, "Are you thinking right?" If you are neutralizing the wrong thought within, the right thought will come to you. Now we will take our treatment. Put everything out of your mind. This class is for conditions. Take something that you feel your mind can encompass, something of which you have a mental cognizance within you now, and then realize that this word which you speak is surrounded by an active power which projects itself around the word, forms the thing which the word embodies, and objectifies it in some way. We do not have to know the way. In perfect calm confidence and perfect trust in yourself, wait. No matter how big a thing you have got, forget it. It is just as easy to demonstrate a big thing as a little one. The whole thing must be done without a sense of strain. God does not struggle. God just knows. So when we give a treatment, there should be no sense of strain or strife, but only a sense of calm confidence and perfect peace, which is born out of that inner conviction that knows that beside me there is none other. Since there is nothing to oppose our word, since it is the word which is all, it does not have to struggle. We feel we are using the one power there is. We believe and know that our word, which is spoken forth into this power, is the law of good. Saying this here and now, we know there is nothing can hinder it. In perfect confidence, let us each take that thing which we are working on. The treatment which I shall give is for myself, and each one of you treat for yourself. and our united consciousness or belief strengthens everyone. I'm thinking of the thing I'm working on for myself, a great big thing. I feel that my consciousness is big enough to realize what it is, mine to have, that thing. I feel that my mind can give birth to it, and so I know that the word which I am speaking now is the law of this thing. I can just feel it surrounded by infinite intelligence and power. I know that this word, I can feel it, is backed up by infinite life. That the very presence of that power and life which permeates this word is enough to destroy every race consciousness that manifests, destroy every thought which is negative, or which is a suggestion of limitation or lack. This word is the law of immediate activity in this thing. Realize that this is the law that says it now. It is the law of perfect harmony. There is no obstruction in the path. Nothing can obstruct it. Neither people, place, nor things, because none of those can intercept it. It is done now. Perfect harmony, causation, perfect activity. Divine intelligence is leading, guiding. That law of perfect attraction in me, which is the spirit of the Almighty in me, because I believe, I know that it is going out and drawing that thing back to me. I know that my word is one with the infinite mind. I feel that that word has become a universal word. Let your consciousness go out as we realize that we are one with all life, with all people, with all things, with all mind. Just feel that you have passed this whole thing over to the infinite power, and just feel that it is being taken up and done. We have no personal responsibility, and we know that beyond it all is the infinite intelligence and power and love of the Spirit, the God of all life and activity, and all power and all love and all attraction, the irresistible power of the Spirit which sweeps before it everything and knows all, and knows it is done. If you are seeking anything that contradicts that principle of unfoldment of life and love, you are contradicting a universal power which, while it will bring the thing to you, might do more damage than good. But we are none of us desiring anything that is not good. Do not hesitate to use it for the very smallest and the greatest things in your life. It will work. Give it attention during the week. Let yourself every day during the week demonstrate. You must do that, of course, to get the perfect concept. Keep right at it. Refuse to see the opposite thing or to have anything to do with it. Know that it will work. Have absolute confidence in yourself. Be willing to do in every way, shape and manner what you want the law to do for you. See everything right, everything perfect. Don't talk with people on the negative side of life. Keep away from them. You cannot mix oil and water. Tell them that you do not care to discuss those things. You have more time to use when you are away from them. There are not any two ways. And see that you demonstrate.